All right. Welcome to episode 1 of season 1 of the Lewis and Laraib podcast with your hosts, obviously myself, Lewis,
And this is me, Laraib.
coming at you with your sports talk of the week. Every Saturday, we're going to hit you up with our predictions for the week of the football season. And then every Thursday, we're going to give you our picks. Schedule's a little tentative right now. We're still trying to figure out the kinks. This is our first episode. We've done some practice runs the past few weeks, and we're excited to give you this content. So we'll start by introducing ourselves, brief introductions. I'm a sophomore at LSU, studying kinesiology. Played high school football a little bit. I've always been a huge sports fan. I would say the Saints are my favorite NFL team, favorite NBA team, Pelicans. Lifelong fan in both of those avenues. And I'm really passionate about sports, and I'm excited and willing to give y'all, my takes on everything.
Hey everyone, my name is Laraib, sophomore at the University of Houston, but maybe coming to LSU. Don't know yet. Majoring in biology and a minor in medicine and society. And also, I wasn't that much of a sports fan growing up, but I started getting into it a little bit. I'm a Seahawks fan and a Toronto Raptors fan, much to everyone's demise. Yeah, so, we just want to make a podcast because we really love our sports, and we just wanted to, give our own take about stuff. So week 2, Lewis, let's jump into it.
All right, yeah, we're excited. We're excited to see where this takes us. If it doesn't take us anywhere, then oh well, it was fun while it lasted, but we're going to keep it going for as long as we can. So let's cut through all of the stuff, and let's go straight into it. Week 2. So quick recap of week 1. Well, from now on in the podcast, we're going to give our recaps of the previous week as a separate episode, and then another episode is going to be our predictions for the upcoming week. So we're not going to spend too much time talking about week 1. Obviously, in the matchups, we're going to discuss like the previous week and how that factors into the upcoming week. But we're going to stay a bit away from last week's stuff. But no, we do know what happened. We'll watch all the games. So we're going to start with Giants-Bears. Giants 0-1, Bears 1-0. My quick take on it: it's at Soldier Field, noon game. It's kind of just the struggling offenses going up against each other, and I think turnover is going to be a big part of this game. Mitch versus Daniel Jones. 2 interceptions for Mitch in their first game. Or for Danny Dimes, 2 interceptions. Mitch Trubisky with a relatively clean game, still passing 20 for 36. Quarterback's a lot to prove. It's going to be an interesting game offensively, seeing who comes up. I need a big bounce-back game from Saquon, especially for my fantasy team's sake, but also for the Giants' sake if they want to stay in this one. Obviously, you're not facing the Steelers' defense, which was extremely formidable last week, holding Saquon to just 6 yards on 15 carries, which is just remarkable. Bears defense is no slouch, especially at Chicago. No fans in Chicago for this first week game. So I like the Bears in this matchup. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's just going to come down to the turnovers, especially for these quarterbacks. And I think Mitch stays pretty clean for a second week in a row.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. Mitchell Trubisky, they had a 2% chance of winning that game against Detroit last week, but Mitch pulled it out somehow. So props to him. Daniel Jones, you know what? I think he's gonna have a great game tonight or Sunday because even against that Steelers defense, he had 2 touchdowns, 279 passing yards. He had Darius Slayton on that nice 60-yard touchdown, which I think was pretty good. Obviously, the run game was kind of lacking, and I think it's also going to be lacking again on Sunday against Chicago. They got Khalil Mack, a lot of big bodies up on there on this front 7. So running game is going to be a problem. So it's going to be up to Daniel Jones. And I think, like you said, it's going to come down to the turnovers. Can Mitch Trubisky, can he drive on this weak Giants offense and score some points, or is he going to turn it over? And same for Daniel Jones. He threw 2 picks, but they were still in that Steelers game pretty late. So it's going to be a battle of the turnovers. Also, hashtag re-sign Allen Robinson II has been trending on
Yes,
Twitter. So
absolutely.
I'm expecting him to have a big game against a poor Giants secondary. I was eaten up by Juju Smith-Schuster. He had 2 touchdowns. So, Allen Robinson could have another breakout game, and he's looking for that check. So I expect him to go off.
Yeah, I mean, so Chicago's favored by 5.5 in this game. Um, quick final score predictions. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go low scoring. I'm gonna go Bears 20, Giants 13. 7-point game.
I'm predicting a little bit more scoring. Barkley, I don't think he's happy with his 6-yard rushing, so he's probably want to get back in it. I'm going 31 Chicago to 20 Giants.
Sheesh. All right. And Mitch, we trust. Going into the second matchup, big matchup. I think that's going to be the nationally televised Fox game for the 12 o'clock slot. At least I believe so. Falcons Cowboys. First game in Dallas. I believe they have fans, right? They're gonna have fans in the stadium.
I believe so. Yeah,
Did
Jerry
they?
Jones.
Okay, because I know Texas is opening up to 75%. Does that mean it's going to be 75% capacity? Because if so, that's like 60,000 people.
Let me quickly look it up while you go over.
Okay, I'll go over the
this
matchup.
game.
So barring fans or not, Dallas is favored by 3.5. Both the teams start the season at 0-1. Both had pretty disappointing losses against formidable teams. So for the Cowboys hosting the Falcons, the big matchup here is going to be the Cowboys offense against the Falcons defense. Both these defenses struggled. But I would say the Cowboys offense against the Falcons defense looked bad. Russell Wilson looked like an MVP. I mean, 4 incompletions versus 4 touchdowns for Russ against the Falcons defense. Injuries can't be the excuse. I mean, you've used it every year. Yes, they're not completely healthy, but you're not missing those key pieces. And you're going to Dallas and 0-1. It's a different level of, ferocity that you have to achieve in order to get back. Because the entire season, whenever you're negative and you see that negative record, you're trying to work back up to just get over the hump. So both these teams are going to be playing with a chip on their shoulder. Dak, he played all right against the Rams in that Sunday night game. You need more from him, though. You need more from this running offense, especially in the second half of games. It was a trend last year with Jason Garrett, and it can't be a trend for Mike McCarthy this year. So they need to pound the rock early and often and work that play action with those dangerous receivers. And they had a fighting chance going into that game against a dangerous Rams team, barring a missed OPI by Michael Gallup on Jalen Ramsey, or not miss, a called OPI, which was suspect. So I'm looking for Dallas to score a lot of points in this game. And let's see, Dallas is favored by 3.5. So I got Dallas winning this game.
Yeah, so I just looked it up. The Cowboys Stadium is going to be at 50% capacity, so it's going to be a decent amount of Cowboys fans in there. So let's talk about the battle of the quarterbacks in this game. Matt Ryan threw for 450 passing yards last week against the Seahawks. I know it was a little bit of garbage time, but 450 yards is still 450 yards. And Dak Prescott, he went for 266 against that Rams defense against Jalen Ramsey and some of the other cornerbacks that they had, but he only had 1 touchdown. So that's a little bit thing of concern, but I really expect Dak Prescott to open up against this weak Falcons offense, like you were just saying. Russell Wilson threw for 4 touchdowns last week. So, Dak Prescott, he can open up, especially with that trio wide receiver core that everyone's talking about. They could be ranked top 5, top 3 in the league this year with Cooper, Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb, the rookie that they drafted. So, also I expect Zeke to go off. Chris Carson, he had a 2-touchdown game last week against the Falcons. Right. He had a rushing and a receiving touchdown. Todd Gurley, he only had 14 carries. The Falcons were down a lot of that game, so I kind of expected that, but I really hope they get him going a little bit. They got him from the Rams, so get him the rock a little bit more. Julio Jones, he had a really nice game. against the Seahawks defense, 9 for 157. So maybe he can repeat that against the Cowboys. You know, they don't really have that lockdown cornerback since Byron Jones left to the Dolphins last season. So I think it's going to be a really high scoring affair, especially with these two, deep threat quarterbacks. Dak Prescott is looking for that check as well as Allen Robinson. So, he's going to be going for it a lot. I got the Cowboys winning this one, but I think it's going to be a pretty close game. I'm going 30-28. Cowboys pull it out late against this stellar Falcons offense.
All right, so you got the Falcons covering in this matchup. I want to point out something that we need to look at. That Dallas D-line looked really good. Aldon Smith looked like the 2016 Aldon Smith on the Raiders, along with DeMarcus Lawrence and those inside guys. Stopping the Rams' rushing attack. Yeah, the Rams' offensive line isn't the 2018 offensive line, but they're nothing to sneeze at. And the battle of this defensive line against the Falcons' offensive line, a bunch of young guys. So it's going to be interesting. It might be a tough night or a tough day for Matt Ryan in that pocket if these Dallas Cowboys can tee off on him. So these teams kind of are similar in a way, the way like they mirror each other. Both secondaries are very suspect. High-powered offenses, but sometimes like go away from their identity. So I agree with you. I think it's going to be a close game. I still have the Cowboys in this one. I'm going to go Cowboys 35, Falcons 28. I think Cowboys score late to push this into a larger margin, but I feel comfortable with this pick.
Right. So let's move on to Lions-Packers. Aaron Rodgers, another virtuoso game by him. After they drafted Jordan Love, he's trying to still prove to everyone in Green Bay that he's the main guy there against that stellar Vikings defense, even though they lost some of their key pieces in offseason. Xavier Rhodes, who went to the Indianapolis Colts. But Aaron Rodgers still threw up 4 touchdowns. Aaron Jones, he was a touchdown machine last year. He scored he scored a rushing touchdown last week against the Vikings. Devonta Adams had another virtuoso game. All the people in fantasy definitely love that. 14 receptions, 156 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So that was a great game by him. Detroit, it's a heartbreaking loss for them last week against the Bears. DeAndre Swift drops a wide open touchdown. But, their defense gave up 3 touchdowns to Mitchell Trubisky, and Aaron Rodgers, he's a lot better than Mitch Trubisky. I think we can both agree on that. So
yes.
I think, we're hoping for a shootout, but Matt Stafford, Kenny Golladay is going to be out for this game. So he's going to be looking towards Marvin Jones and Denny Amendola. But I think Aaron Rodgers, he has something to prove this season, and he's going to take on these Lions, and he's going to put the Lions in the cage.
Yeah, if you go back to last year, you remember this I think it was a Monday night game, Detroit at Green Bay, where it was that was like the turning point of Detroit's season. They started off the season pretty well, and then they came down here. There was all those penalties on the defense, and they ended up losing the game to a last-second Mason Crosby field goal. So there's got to be a lot of motivation for the Lions coming into this game. As you said, they really let that game go against the Bears last week. And the Packers have always had troubles with the Lions. The win-loss record may not indicate it over the last few years or whatever. But, all these games have been closer than you'd expect. There's been games where it's a field goal at the end, the Hail Mary games. Like, all these games come down pretty close. So I wouldn't be betting too much on this game. Granted, Green Bay looked very good last week against a suspect Vikings defense whose entire secondary, where'd they go? Like, I see Harrison Smith is there, but like, there's no Xavier Rhodes. The other safety, Harris, it's looking rough. Gladney starting, the rookie they drafted. But big thing to look up in this matchup is the Detroit offensive line against the Green Bay defensive line and defensive front seven. You have the Smith brothers causing havoc. You need to make sure you neutralize them. And Matt Stafford played a pretty good game against the Bears front seven. I mean, it was pretty clean. He had one tipped interception. Yeah, it's not really his fault, but what are you gonna do? So I look for him to have a bounce back game, and I think this game's gonna be close. Everything's telling me I kind of want to pick Detroit in this game, but at Green Bay, it's such a tough pace to play, even if there's no fans. So I'm gonna go Green Bay, but it's gonna be tight. I'm saying 24-23, last second Mason Crosby field goal.
I'm going to have to go 24-21, last second, Matt Prater field goal.
Lions?
And the Lions are going to win this game.
Oh! We call them this big upset, huh?
Yeah, we can call this upset right here. Even though Green Bay is -6.5, I think Detroit finally has a decent running back in Adrian Peterson, although late in his career. Matt Stafford.
He looked good. He looked really good.
He had 14 carries for 93 yards, so that was a great game by him. Matt Stafford really has something to prove after that horrible loss, giving up to to Mitch Trubisky out of all people. So he's going to come out of the gate swinging. What do they have to lose, really? Right. So I got the Lions by 3.
Now it's something to look at. The Lions secondary was very beaten up in that last game. Okuda didn't play, and they lost some guys throughout the game. Looking at the injury report right now for the Lions, so Desmond Trufant is out. It seems like Jeff Okuda might be playing. Let me check this out. All right, yeah. So Kenny Golladay, Hunter Bryant, Desmond Trufant, Nick Williams are all out, and Darryl Roberts might be playing, and it seems like Okuda is going to be making his NFL debut. So healthier secondary than last week, because you saw Aaron Rodgers just torch that young, depleted Vikings secondary. So it's going to be a great matchup. So definitely one to look forward to in that noon slate. All right, let's move on to the next matchup though. We got Jaguars Titans, the 1-0 juggernauts of the NFL. I'll start with this one. Tennessee favored by 7.5, rightfully so. AFC Championship appearance against what a lot of people said was the worst team in the league, with a shocking upset win in Week 1 against the Colts. It's at Tennessee.
Can I just say something? I wish that this game could have been on Thursday night, just so we could have seen a mustard and.
Oh no! It's coming back later in the season. It has to. Everyone looks to that Thursday night matchup.
Unfortunately, I don't think they do have a Thursday night matchup this year.
Why do we have to watch Browns Bengals and then the next week get Dolphins Jaguars when we want to see the mustard yellow against the light blue? It's the NFL fans' dream on Thursday night. Oh, disappointing.
Yeah.
Disappointing, man. This is the go-to game, NFL, and you're messing up on it. But no. Yeah, this game's probably not going to get the most watches. Big matchup in this one is just going to be, you saw last week the improved Jaguar secondary. Obviously, they lost Jalen Ramsey, A.J. Bouye, and basically all the defensive stars from that 2017 team. But you see the rookies stand up. C.J. Henderson, the rookie from Florida, he had an outstanding game covering T.Y. Hilton and had a clutch interception on Phillip Rivers to help secure that game. So, I mean, this Titans team's not going to be going heavy through the air, but you're going to have your front seven with Miles Jack. The loss of Yannick Ngakoue is going to hurt. But if they can just halt Derrick Henry, I think this always ends up being a low-scoring game. I mean, barring turnovers, and turnovers have really decided these series in the past. I mean, whoever won the turnover margin won these games. It was that simple. Blake Bortles against Ryan Tannehill, and in past years, Marcus Mariota. It was never the most glamorous matchup. But Gardner Minshew played almost a perfect game last Sunday with 1 incompletion and 3 touchdowns. Yeah, he didn't have the great yardage numbers, but if he can keep up that consistency and just find his targets and not make any mistakes, they could win this game. They could really go into Tennessee and win this game.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, for
if
sure.
the Titans just play their gameplay, feed Derrick Henry, and just control clock and play hounding defense like they did against Denver, it's going to be tough to beat. So my thing, Titans favored by 7.5. I like the Jaguars. I really do.
It's gonna be your upset of the week.
I'm going Jaguars over Titans. I'm going 2-0 Jaguar babe. Minshew Mania is taking over Florida with 24 20 actually I'm going to go 20-17 win Jaguars over Titans.
Yeah, I did not like what I saw out of Tennessee opening night, Monday night against the Broncos. I know they're in Mile High. It's week 1 of the NFL, no training camp, no OTAs, no any practices like that. So they're going to go out there. They're going to be gassed in that Mile High air. But, that was a really close game, and it came down towards the end. I know if Gostkowski missed 3 kicks, and that would have put them over the top. So maybe that's some of their problems that we know Tennessee last year also had. They continue to struggle with their kicking issue. But Derrick Henry had 31 carries for 116 yards. So they're sticking with him. They're sticking with the game plan. They're not going to deviate from it. They're going to give him the rock, 20, 30 times a game. They're going to pound it. Tannehill, he had a solid game, 249 passing yards for 2 touchdowns. We didn't see A.J. Brown that much on Monday night, and Corey Davis really took over that role, 7 receptions for 101 yards.
I think A.J. Brown is going to be out for this
game.
game.
He is going to be out.
Okay.
So really look towards Corey Davis to eat against that, not too well-established Jaguars defense. On the other side, Gardner Minshew, like you said, he was you could just say he was a game manager that game, but he kept him in that game against the Colts. Only 1 incompletion, but only 173 yards. But he had 3 touchdowns. On the ground, they had James Robinson. He toted the rock 16 times for 62
He looked good.
yards. Yeah, he was looking
really
pretty good out there. With the loss of Leonard Fournette, you wouldn't know who would have taken over the role. Chris Thompson or Raquel Armstead, but James Robinson took it over, and 16 for 62. That's not bad for him. Not many people know of him.
Over 5 yards to carry for him.
Yeah, I wish we saw a little bit more of DJ Chark, but he looked like he was locked up. So
yeah, I wish I would have seen more of him as well.
For your fantasy team, yeah, of course, a lot of people drafted him, but these two teams, they know each other very well. I think it's going to be a really tight game. But Tennessee, they're going to pound the rock. They're going to take the air out of the ball. This is going to be an easy win for them. They're going to go up 2-0 despite, maybe struggling a little bit early in the game or maybe towards the end. But I think if they get their kicker situation figured out, they're going to win this pretty easily. I'm going 24-10 Tennessee.
All right, so a little bit of normalcy is returning. Quick note for this game in terms of injury. The Jaguars are relatively healthy. Only Tyler Davis, the tight end, is out. Titans, though, were beat up in Denver. A.J. Brown's out, and then you have Derek Robertson, Vic Beasley, Malcolm Butler, and Jamil Douglas all questionable for the game. Most likely going to play, but you never know against a Jacksonville team, especially on a short week coming from Monday to Sunday. So let's go off into the next matchup. We got Vikings-Colts. Interesting game from the stand line of both these teams were projected to be potential playoff teams, especially the Colts for the AFC South crown, and they both came out and sucked. And they really disappointed in week 1. So, yeah, both teams 0-1, 12 o'clock game at Indianapolis. I would assume it was a bit of a pick-em, but Indy is favored here by 3 points. Just quick recap of the week 1 matchups. Both teams lost. Colts lost to the Jaguars pretty embarrassingly. And Kirk Cousins and the Vikings were just ran off the field by the Packers in week 1 in Minnesota, I should say. This game going back – see, I'll give the Colts a little bit of a break because it's the first game with Phillip Rivers in that offense. And, it's an outside game in September in Florida with no training camp and no preseason. You're going to have guys tired. And the second half, they looked very tired. So I'm going to give them a little break. I still think this team is good. I still think Phillip Rivers is good. But what break are we giving the Vikings? They just got worse. Like Kirk Cousins looked bad. I mean, his numbers, if you look at them just face level, they don't look that too bad. But you got to acknowledge that he only threw 5 passes in the first half. Like, what is this offensive identity? And then he throws 20 in the second half. You got to figure something out. You get rid of Kevin Stefanski, or you lose Kevin Stefanski, and you got to figure out what this offense is geared towards. I mean, you have Dalvin Cook in the backfield, you have Madison, and you have a good offensive line. They're young, but they're getting better. And you lose Diggs, so this offense is completely changed, and it looked like it because they looked awful. This is two disappointing teams. They're giving the Colts 3 points, and I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna give the Colts a touchdown. I'm going 28-21 Colts in Indianapolis.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you there. The Vikings, they had a sloppy game to start off the season. I will admit, Kirk Cousins, like you said, 5 passes in the first half. What were they doing out there? They didn't have an offensive identity, with Stefanski gone, like you said. But they still have Dalvin Cook. He's a top 3 running back in the NFL. They had Adam Thielen. He had a good game. It was just 2 garbage time touchdowns, which wasn't too good. But I know this Vikings defense. They gave up a lot to Aaron Rodgers, 4 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown to Aaron Jones. It doesn't look too good, but I do not believe in this Indianapolis Colts team at all. Phillip Rivers, we know with San Diego, and then they moved to Los Angeles. He maybe has a Hall of Fame career, but he never was able to make it, extra mile. And I don't expect him to have that good of a year in Indianapolis. I know they have the stellar offensive line, even though they had some injuries to some of their key players, but I think they're all going to be ready to go Sunday. But they have Jonathan Taylor, and I think they're going to be pounding the ball this game against a Vikings team. But that's what they're going to need to do. But they're going to have to pass it because they're going to be down. So look towards T.Y. Hilton maybe this week in fantasy if you have him. But I think the Vikings are going to handle the Colts easily. Handle. I do not. I'm telling you, Phillip Rivers. The past couple of years, he should have retired a long time ago. I know he's a little check down machine. Dump it down to the running back, let him get a couple yards. You saw Naeem Hines, he had 2 receiving touchdowns on the ground. So I don't believe in this Colts offense. There's Phillip Rivers. He's an upgrade from Jacoby Brissett, but he's not that much better. He's in the last couple of years of his career. He has nothing to lose. Maybe he's a Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's going for that deep ball every single time, but he's going to throw a couple picks, and they're gonna lose this game pretty bad. I'm going Vikings.
It seems like an odd fit in the offense because he doesn't have those big targets outside the tight ends. It's just like those lob threats like he had in Los Angeles, excuse me, where he would just throw it up to Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and they would just come down with it. The speedy receivers, Paris Campbell, T.Y. Hilton, Naheem Hines out of the backfield. But I will say the Vikings defense looked bad. The loss of Danielle Hunter was significant. And those linebackers, they didn't look too great either, Kendricks and Barr. So going up against this front, they have to make sure they can, get to those checkdowns to Hines and get to those crossing routes. And, there's going to be those lobs downfield to Paris Campbell. And if, Gladney and the other Vikings cornerbacks can't get to him, I think this is going to be a tough game for the Vikings defense. I mean, Colts at home, no fans, I don't believe. And it's going to be a tough matchup. I'm giving him a touchdown. What are you saying your final score was?
My final score is going to be Minnesota 30 and Indianapolis 20.
10 points. 13-point swing. Okay.
I'm telling you, dude, Phillip Rivers, his career, next 2 or 3 years, either he's out of the league or he's going to be a rotating quarterback like a Ryan Fitzpatrick or someone,
Quick, would you rather have Kirk Cousins or Phillip Rivers for the season as your starting quarterback?
Kirk Cousins for sure. They don't really trust him to throw the ball that much. But when it comes down to it, Kirk Cousins, maybe he's not, the best quarterback, but I still take him over Phillip Rivers.
All right, that was a tough game. I mean, I really think anything can happen in that game. two of the most unpredictable teams. And now we're going to get to a matchup, which it's going to be, we'll get to that matchup next, actually. Bills Dolphins we'll start with right now. Bills at Miami. This is going to be Miami's first home game of the season. Their ESPN is giving Buffalo 5.5 points on the road. So last week, Bills looked dominant against a porous Jets team. Defense came out firing. Josh Allen had some good plays, some bad plays. It's just like a mixed bag with him. The defense, just came out firing. The Jets looked lost. They looked like they didn't belong. And as for the Dolphins going into New England facing that reshuffled Patriots team, a significantly worse Patriots defense after the losses they had this offseason to opt out or free agency. They didn't get much going. Ryan Fitzpatrick, 3 interceptions, only 190 yards. Devontae Parker was shut down. And their leading rusher, Myles Gaskin, not knowing really who the leading rusher for Miami would be. Jordan Howard had a decent game, I guess. People thought he may be the lead back for this team. So matchup-wise, one important thing to notice, and I talked about it a little bit earlier, is those September games in Florida for these visiting teams, especially like the Buffaloes of the world, who haven't been getting like the super hot training camp heat. No preseason, no training camp, and you're going straight into Miami. It's going to be, if it's not raining, it's going to be hot as hell. Also, interesting thing, 3 of the Bills linebackers, Matt Milano, Tremaine Edmonds, and Delshon Phillips are all out for this game. So, and Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano, those are like 2 of your best players for the Bills defense. So those losses in the middle might prove, everything's looking at me that I should pick the Dolphins in this game, at least to cover. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and say it's going to be a low-scoring game. The improved Miami secondary and linebacking core, I think, is going to get to Josh Allen and those new receivers. I'm not going to pick Miami to win, but it's going to be very close, and I'm going to go 23-20 Buffalo over Miami.
You are looking way too deep into this, my dude. Ryan Fitzpatrick, threw 3 picks against, it's the New England Patriots. We know about their defense with Bill Belichick at the helm. But, they lost a lot of people. Patrick Chung is gone. Dante Hightower is gone. So 3 picks against that defense, what are you doing? Josh Allen, he could have had 3 passing, maybe 4 passing touchdowns on the day against the Jets. But, Josh Allen's going to do Josh Allen. He's going to miss some wide open people. He just needs to set his feet and throw it to the guy running in the back of the end zone wide open. But he's going to overthrow him in, usual Josh Allen fashion. But the Bills are going to win this game handily. It's going to be maybe they drop a 50 burger if Josh Allen decides I'm going to hit my receiver.
Oh, man.
Okay, I'm just coming out and saying it. The Miami Dolphins, they don't have anyone on offense that I see is like any threat. Devontae Parker had a breakout year last year, but the cornerback
Tre'Davious White.
Yeah, Tre'Davious White, he just got a big bag from the Bills. So I expect him to get shut down once again by Parker. Tre'Davious White and Stephon Gilmore, they're like 1A and 1B. There's not really – you can say Gilmore is just a little bit better than him. So I don't expect Parker – I expect Parker to get shut down.
Yeah, this is like a nightmare for Devontae Parker his first 2 weeks going up against Gilmore and Tre'Davious White.
Yeah. And the Dolphins, they signed Jordan Howard and Matt Breida in the offseason to bring in as a running back. But, Myles Gaskin was still the leading rusher, so we don't really know what's going on in that backfield. The Bills, we know about their defense. You said, Tremaine Edwards and Matt Milano, that, probably the 2 leaders in the middle of the defense of the linebacking core, they're going to be out. Yeah. But I still expect this Bills defense, not a lot of big-name players, but they're still going to step up and take care of this depleted Miami offense, and they're going to win 30-13.
Interesting. All right. Different takes on it. So my thing is, I mean, obviously the Dolphins offense is the suspect part, but I'm hoping this Miami defense can cause some turnovers. Josh Allen played a pretty clean game last week against the Jets. If they if they can get a fumble or if they can get an interception, at least one, and get good field position, I think Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to put them in a position to score. Um, Obviously didn't have the greatest game, but you're going up against Bill Belichick in a week one, which is a tough spot to be in for any team and any offense. I like Sean McDermott a lot as a coach, and I think he's going to have a bright future in this league for a long time with the Bills. But it's going to be a lot closer of a game. Buffalo might be feeling themselves. They'll be reading the headlines saying "Kings of the AFC East?" question mark.
After beating the Jets, I don't think so, man.
I mean,
Cam Newton, he wasn't
state rivalry right there.
Cam Newton wasn't doing too well against that Dolphins defense, but he still had 2 rushing touchdowns. But I don't think these Dolphins, they'd have no hope. They have Tua, but he's not starting yet, so they're just waiting on him to develop for maybe half of the season, or maybe they start him next season. So maybe they're just tanking again for another number 1 overall pick. So yeah, I don't know what these Dolphins are doing, but the Bills got this game easy.
All right, so different outlooks on that one. Now we go to a game that we can probably both safely agree on. This 49ers traveling to New Jersey to face the New York Jets. San Francisco favored by a touchdown. In this game, both teams start the season 0-1. 49ers lose a close one to the Cardinals, and the Jets get blown out at home against the Bills, or at Buffalo on the road against the Bills. Key matchups in this game, it's going to be that 49ers defense against the Jets offense. Jets offense looked lost. I mean, Adam Gase, this is the game he needs in order to keep his job, because it's already looking like he could get fired after this week, depending on how it looks. And the 49ers defense, this is no Kyler Murray. This is Sam Darnold. And we're kind of waiting for that game where he steps up and proves, number 3 pick in the draft, why he was, selected so high as he was. And it hasn't been there yet. I still believe in him because the supported cast. Do you know who the Jets' leading rusher was on Sunday?
It happened to be Frank Gore.
It was Frank Gore.
Yeah, they placed Le'Veon Bell on
24 yards. I mean, Sam Darnold is working with nothing. Only look at the injury report. Jamison Crowder is out. The only glimpse of hope they had against the Bills on Sunday with that long touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And we know about the losses to Le'Veon Bell. We know about the loss to C.J. Mosley, opt-out. Jamal Adams, traded him. This is a team that's looking like they have Trevor Lawrence in their future.
Yeah.
And 49ers, tough game in San Francisco. I think it was just a case of they were practicing a lot that week under stressful conditions, the fires in California. And I mean, not to make excuses, but you just have to understand where they're coming from. And then they get surprised by a shocking Cardinals offense. So I think this is going to be a shakeback game for them. I think Nick Bosa and that defensive line, D Ford will not be playing, but the rest of the defensive line will, shake back and get to Sam Darnold. They're going to create turnovers, and they're going to run the ball down this depleted Jets' throat. My pick would be San Francisco 38 to Jets 3 in this one.
3. Well, you were talking about earlier, a team that loses in the Super Bowl and they come back the next season, they don't have the hottest season, but this is a gimme for the 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo, he had a okay game last week. He put him in position to win the game late. Well, he kind of took him out of position to win the game late, and then he put him back into position to win the game late, but he couldn't hit that wide receiver on that deep touchdown to end the game. But the
Seems
49ers.
familiar. Seems very familiar to another game.
Yeah, and that Super Bowl loss, he barely missed Emmanuel Sanders, by a yard or so. But
Mhm.
this 49ers, their identity is running the ball. We know that. They were number 1 or number 2, I believe, rushing team last season, but they only had 124 rushing yards against the Cardinals last week. So I expect them to hammer this ball down the Jets' throat
Pause.
all Sunday 12 at 12 p.m. or wherever you're watching the game from. But Mostert only had 15 carries for 56 yards, so he was a little bit shut down. But they gave him he got a contract restructured over the offseason, so he's going to be wanting to run that ball a lot. And on the other side, Sam Darnold has you got to feel bad for the guy. His whole career, he's played for the Jets. He's had no offensive weapons at all. They traded for Le'Veon Bell, but he hasn't been who he was since he left from the Steelers. Frank Gore, he's towards the back half of his career, maybe maybe he has a little bit something to prove, trying to get a little bit higher on that all-time rushing yards list. But receiving wise, Robbie Anderson, he went to the Carolina Panthers over the offseason. Jamison Crowder's out this game. I really don't know what they're going to do on offense. So I expect the 49ers will beat this game handily, a little gimme for them in the second game of the season. I'm going 30-10.
30-10. Okay, so you're a little more generous than I am. Interesting to look at fantasy owners. George Kittle will not be playing in this game. He got injured on Sunday. I just don't think it's going to hurt the 49ers' chances. But interesting thing to think about in terms of the Jets, right, is, Sam Darnold starts his career with Todd Bowles. He gets fired. Then you bring Gase in. Gase is going into his second year now. How long do you give Adam Gase before he's fired this season?
Honestly, he should have been fired at the end of last season or even before last season. I really don't understand why there isn't more buzz in the NFL about how Adam Gase's job is on the line. You go into Twitter, you can read the comment section. The people are talking about it, but I don't see any ESPN articles, any NFL Network articles about what are the Jets going to do with Adam Gase. He rode the coattails of Peyton Manning. He was talking about how he was like, oh yeah, I was responsible for that Peyton Manning offense, which I think so. That's how he got his job. But I think halfway through the season, he should be gone.
Right. I think that just annoys me in general about some NFL franchises is they think they have to hire the big name coaches,
Mm-hmm.
Even if you can look at so many things Adam Gase has done. He had his chance as a head coach as well, and it flopped with San Diego. And so the Jets, I give them halfway through the season. And NFL franchise, you have to look deeper than just, a washed up coach. You need to find a good assistant. Just look at the best coaches in the league now, former assistants on NFL teams, years of expertise. And some of the young guys, offensive minded head coaches. You need someone who's going to set that precedent in your locker room and change how this franchise has been for, frankly, the last 50 years. But besides that, we both had the 49ers blowing out the Jets in that game. We have a big 12 o'clock slate here. Moving on, Rams-Eagles. ESPN gives the Eagles a 1.5-point advantage. But I think I heard some things that it's moved to a pick'em. So basically evenly matched here. It's going to be in Philadelphia. Rams 1-0, Philly 0-1. Quick recap of week 1. Rams coming off an impressive win over the favored Cowboys in that matchup. Defensive line looked dominant. Aaron Donald was a man beater. Jalen Ramsey looked like the cornerback from 2018, 2017. He looks like the best cornerback in the league in some regards. Just so big and so intimidating. Underrated tackler from the cornerback position.
Yeah, you saw him laying out Amari Cooper.
Yeah, he
put
him on the ground.
In that game.
So, and then their offense, it wasn't great still. There's still questions about Goff after getting that big contract following the Super Bowl year. But he looked good in that first game, didn't turn the ball over.
No, he had an interception.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah,
So
interception, but it was a face mask, but they didn't call it.
right,
The
right,
Cowboys lineman hit him in the face, and it was a clear face mask while he threw that pick, but they didn't call it. So
right.
unfortunate for
So
him, but
the game was
wasn't too big of an
yeah, the game
impact.
was poorly officiated. And the Rams got out of there and their first win in a new stadium. Um, Good rushing performance from Malcolm Brown. He seemed like it seems like they're going running back by committee a little bit in the first half, and then they saw how Malcolm Brown was carrying the ball. They seemed to go to him a lot in the second half. Robert Woods was their leading receiver. He just got a new extension. It just seems like the Rams are getting salary cap out of
Mm-hmm.
nowhere. Like they're taking care of all their guys. So good for Robert Woods. Cooper Cup was extended earlier this summer as well. So good for both of them. So now we'll look at the flip side of the ball. We have the Eagles, who completely stunk in their first matchup against the Washington professional football team. 17-point lead, 1 point in the game, completely choked it, ended up losing 27-17 to the football team. Key mistakes towards the end of the game, two costly interceptions from Carson Wentz, who looked great in the first half. Him, Goddard, Ertz had that just tight end connection. Just key injuries amongst the offensive line. Obviously, Brandon Brooks is out for the year. No Lane Johnson in that game. And in this game, it's looking like um, is Lane. I think Lane Johnson is going to play in this game. Let me get the injury report up real quick. But yeah, key injuries on the offensive line for both teams or for the Eagles, and that is never a good thing to look at whenever you're facing a Aaron Donald on the other team, who
Mm-hmm.
against a good Dallas O line looked like a man amongst children. So keys in this game, it's getting Carson Wentz in that running game off to a hot start. Miles Sanders did not play in that first one. He will play in
Yeah, he
this
will be
game.
playing.
Um, so big addition for them. A lot of people picked them up very early in their fantasy drafts, expecting a big output, especially on the ground. Ezekiel had a good game against the Rams on the ground in the first. Okay, so yeah, I mean, they need to set up the run a lot in the first half, get it started, because that's going to be a big deal in terms of just keeping this game consistent. Because they got away from the run against the football team on Sunday, and that's where they lost their identity. Doug Peterson and this team needs to look at themselves and see what they have and what they don't have. Establish the run, get the play action pass going to the tight ends. Jalen Rager looked good. Deshaun Jackson, get them on those deep crosses down the field, and they have the recipe to win this game if they just stick to a consistent game plan and not go away with it. My concern in this game, and the reason I'm picking the Eagles in this one, is I'm concerned about the Rams' offense against this Philly defense. Philly defense looked better. Darius Slay at cornerback. The reason they might not look as impressive is because you look at that game and the football team had great field position for like all their scoring drives. If you can limit the turnovers on offense and make the Rams beat you all the way down the field, Philly's got a good D line, good linebackers, so I feel like they'll do well against the running game of the Rams and stop that play action pass that Sean McVay loves so much in those two tight end sets. And if you can stop Higbee, Woods, and Cup on the outside and just get stop them on third down, that's gonna be very important because they were pretty good in third down against the Cowboys. Get off the field in third down. That's the recipe for winning, Philadelphia. So if you don't want to go down 0-2 and potentially lose this division, here's how you do it. I got the Eagles winning this game in a close one. I'm going 26-20 in Philadelphia.
I got the Rams winning this one. Carson Wentz, he had a great game, but you know, his offensive line could not keep him off his back the whole time. And I expect this Rams defense to just get after him. Aaron Donald, like you're saying, he was a man amongst boys on Sunday Night Football. So he's going to eat up against his beat up Philadelphia line. Maybe, who knows, with this Philadelphia curse, they could have, two more people, three more people go down on the offensive line. So, you never know what's going to happen. Hopefully, you're not praying for anyone to get hurt or anything like that. but injuries has been plaguing this team for a long time. And I'm expecting Sean McVay to come out with his his misdirection offense. He's gonna hit him with a play action pass. Maybe go deep to Robert Woods. He has so many different types of plays in his arsenals. He has a wide receiver screens. He has a running back screens, misdirections, play action deep, just normal running the ball with that running back trio. So he's gonna attack this Eagles defense a lot of different ways. Like you were saying, the Eagles, their defense are putting pretty tough to positions against a football team. But even if, they have 30, 40, 50 yards to go, you still got to, hold them to a field goal. You can't let them score 23 points straight on you. I mean, you just can't do that. So I'm expecting the Rams to, have another, great – I mean, they didn't have a great game against the Cowboys, but they're going to have a pretty decent game against the Eagles with that beat-up defense that didn't look too good against the football team. So Jared Goff, he had an okay game. He didn't throw any touchdowns, but he threw that one, kind of interception that could have been called back or not. But he didn't put them in a position to lose. But so I expect him to manage the game again. It's going to be a tight one, but I think they're going to pull it off. And I'm going Rams 30-27.
Yeah, I mean, I think the winner is going to be largely predicated off the who can run the ball the best in this game. And the Eagles, I have a little bit more faith in. I'm not really sure why. I think I just like Miles Sanders. But against this Aaron Donald-led defensive line, you need to get up the field. You need to be able to set up play action so you don't have Aaron Donald in Carson Wentz's face the entire game. So getting that run game set up, I think, is going to be a precedent for Doug Peterson and this Carson Wentz offense to set up. And I think Fletcher Cox and that defensive line for the Eagles, they're going to be, with their ears pinned back. I think they're going to have a really good game against this Rams offense. So I'm giving the Eagles a slight edge in this one, but it's a pick 'em. You can really go in either way. I wouldn't bet on it if I was betting. All right, next matchup. Still in the 12 o'clock slot. Yeah, massive 12 o'clock slot for these games this week. I'll let you start this one off. We got the Broncos-Steelers, 12 o'clock on CBS. Steelers favored by a touchdown in Pittsburgh. Take it off.
Yeah, so can we talk about that Steelers defense against the Giants on that Monday night game? Looking like the steel curtain of old.
Steel curtain.
Yeah, not too many, they have a couple of big names, TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick in the secondary. But for the most part, they have a tried and true defensive line, front seven with Stephon Tuitt, Cam Hayward. So, their defense is going to do what their defense does. Ben Roethlisberger, he had an all right night. I wish he could have opened up that Giants defense a little bit more, a little bit close in the first half, but he took it over in the second half and put them up. 229 passing yards for 3 touchdowns, which is a good game. Juju Smith-Schuster, he had a really good game. He's going back to how he was in 2018. Him and Antonio Brown were tearing up the league. So I'm expecting him to have another great game against the Broncos defense. The Broncos, let's talk about the Broncos defense. They kind of held the Titans pretty close in that game. Derrick Henry, we didn't see any that too many big runs out of him. How we're used to seeing him stiff arm people on the sidelines going for 60, 50 yards sometimes. But he still had 100 yards, but that was on 30 carries. So this Broncos defense, despite losing Von Miller and Bradley Chubb not being 100%, they still went out there and they locked him down for a little bit. Philip Lindsay for the Broncos, he was hurt, so Melvin Gordon is going to be taking over the main lead for the Broncos. Courtland Sutton, he's going to be questionable for the Broncos. You know what? I was saying before, I didn't trust Drew Lock that much, but he had an okay game.
He had a good game. He had a pretty solid game.
Yeah, for his second year, 216s to a touchdown. He didn't throw any picks. He had Jerry Jeudy on the sideline for a touchdown, but he overthrew him a little bit. That could have been a turning point in that game. But, he's not going to put him in a position to lose. So, right. But I still expect this Pittsburgh offense, Ben Roethlisberger, he's coming back to his second game after injuring his elbow last year. So he's going to be a little bit more, he's going to knock some of that rust off. Let's see. For injuries, I think James Conner is going to play. but he's always a question mark. He can get injured at any moment. Benny Snell, though, he had a solid game against the Giants, 19 carries for 113 yards. So even if Connor does go down, they still have a decent running back in Benny Snell. But I think the Broncos are going to win this game pretty handedly. It's in Pittsburgh. They're playing in Heinz Field. So I got the Broncos 35-10.
You have the Broncos 30.
I mean, excuse me. I have the Pittsburgh Steelers 35-10.
Okay, I was about to say that is bold. Yeah, I think one interesting matchup to look at is Noah Fant for the Broncos and Eric Ebron for the Steelers, the two tight ends. Noah Fant had 81 yards and a touchdown last week against the Titans. It seems like that's Drew Lock's favorite target, the second-year tight end. And the Steelers, on the other hand, had a really good game against Evan Ingram of the Giants. So if they can take away that target, I really don't see how Denver can move the ball up and down the field. Cortland Sutton is questionable for this game. He is their wide receiver 1. Phillip Lindsay's out, like you said. Garrett Bowles, starting offensive tackle, is questionable. So they have a lot of question marks in their offense. Do you trust Melvin Gordon as your running back 1? Do you trust this offensive line against that ferocious Steelers defense? And do you trust the wide receivers to get separation? And most importantly, do you trust Drew Lock to lead this offense down the field in Pittsburgh? I say no. The Steelers defense proved a lot to me against the Giants. But we knew the Steelers defense was good. I said to you earlier in one of the other recordings that we had was this Steelers defense or the Steelers team, whenever they scored over 11 points last year, they were 8-3. That's just a testament to how good their defense was and how much it carried them last year. If there were 7 playoff teams last year, Pittsburgh would have been in there. And Pittsburgh against Kansas City in the first round, that would have been a fun matchup. So I'm looking at the biggest thing I want to talk about. One last thing is Ben Roethlisberger's return. He had a good game, not a great game. He showed his promise, going back to his prime. He had a few gorgeous throws into the end zone. He had one to Juju. It was like a fadeaway jumper into the end zone. So I think a big thing is no Von Miller for this Broncos defense and just a lot of new moving parts. I think it's, quite frankly, a mismatch in Pittsburgh. So I'm going to go Pittsburgh 27, Denver 13. That's my final prediction. All right. So moving on to the last game of the 12 o'clock slate, we have the Carolina Panthers traveling on the road to take on Tampa Bay and the Buccaneers. I'll let you start this one. Real quick, though, Tampa's favored by 8.5. I think that's the biggest line we've seen. Yeah, that's the biggest line we've seen so far in these games. Tampa 8.5 over the Panthers. Both teams 0-1. All right, you can get it started.
Yeah, so Tom Brady, he had a little bit of trouble against that Saints secondary last week, but he's going to come out firing. He's trying to prove something this year without Bill Belichick as head coach. Carolina Panthers defense gave up 34 points last week to Derek Carr and the Las Vegas Raiders. So I expect Tom Brady to light this defense up. We know our Chris Godwin is going to be out, but Mike Evans, he was shut down last week by Marshawn Lattimore, but I don't think anyone on this Carolina Panthers defense is going to be any trouble to him. I expect him to have a big game. So, lock him into your fantasy lineup, wide receiver number 1 this week. Yeah, so the running backs for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we know they have Ronald Jones, LaShawn McCoy, and Leonard Fournette. But Ronald Jones had most of the work on last Sunday afternoon. And Tom Brady, he had that pick 6 against Jack Rabbit, but, he doesn't make too many mistakes on the offensive side of the ball. So I expect him to have a big game. On the other side, we have the Carolina Panthers. Teddy Bridgewater coming into his first year as a Carolina Panther. He had a decent game against them, against the Las Vegas Raiders, 269 for a touchdown. He was good for the Saints last season when he replaced Drew Brees. They went 6-0, didn't they, as him as the starting quarterback?
5-0.
5-0. So we know Bridgewater, he's a solid quarterback. It's his first year. He's still getting used to the offense. Christian McCaffrey's going to do Christian McCaffrey things, as we all know. 23 carries for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had a pretty good game, for all you fantasy owners out there that have him. Robbie Anderson also had a pretty good game. He had that nice deep touchdown for 80 plus yards, I think.
Yeah.
So that was good for him, getting him into the incorporate to the offense after he came over from the Jets. I think a key to this game where we're going to be looking at is this Tampa Bay offense or rushing or trio running back against this Carolina Panthers defensive line. Now, Josh Jacobs last week from the Raiders had 3 rushing touchdowns. So, this Panthers defensive line is kind of suspect, and I expect Ronald Jones or Fournette or McCoy, whoever they have, for this game to have a really nice game.
Yeah. Keys for me is this is a get-back game for the Buccaneers after, they've been hearing all this noise about them supposed to be this great team this season, Super Bowl favorites, because of Tom Brady. And quite frankly, they didn't look that good on Sunday. A lot of miscues, a lot of penalties. So now you're facing a worse defense and a worse offense in the Panthers. So you need to use this game as sort of like establish the run. As you said, Josh Jacobs against this run defense. No more Luke Kuechly, retired. And that defensive line up front is not that great. They still have Kawan Short. They still have I think Kawan Short.
Short is out.
He is out. So yeah, their best defensive tackle is out. Obviously no Luke Kuechly.
No Thomas Davis Sr.
What's that?
No Thomas Davis.
Yep, he's gone. So in this game, it's the precedent is going to be setting up their run, and Tom, you saw last year in New England when Tom Brady was able to work off the run. In New England, when Bill Belichick set it up, he was very effective with the lack of weapons, and now he has a gluttony of weapons, and he's going to be able to work with them to get explosive plays down the field. Quite frankly, Mike Evans should have a bounce back game. No Chris Godwin, so he's going to be heavily targeted. I expect the tight ends in this one to do very well. Darren Waller for the Raiders, a lot of people picked him up in fantasy, did not have that great of a game. But this is a different monster when you have Gronk, O.J. Howard, and you have a quarterback who likes his tight ends. So expect the Tampa Bay offense to have a much better game. But also what I'm going to say for the Tampa Bay offense is their offensive line, did not look good in that first game. So if this worse defensive line than the Saints in terms of the Panthers with a bunch of young guys up front, if they are able to get to Brady a lot, this is bad omens for this Tampa Bay offense. So they need to make sure they solidify their front. And in terms of defense, it's all about McCaffrey for the Panthers. Yes, Bridgewater's the new quarterback in town, but McCaffrey, offense, running game, passing game, he is the target. And if, Tampa's got some good linebackers in Devin White and Levante David, who did a decent job against Latavius Murray and Alvin Kamara last week. If they can hold McCaffrey in check, keep him out of the backfield, keep him from getting those extra few yards from just breaking off of people, which I think they have the ability to do so, they're going to have success against this Carolina offense. So saying that, I think Tampa Bay is going to have a really good game. And for their first home game, I'm giving them a 10-point win. I'm going 30-20 Tampa Bay. Carolina scores late to make it a 10-point game.
Yeah, I'm going to have to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this game. I'm going to go Buccaneers by 14. It's going to be 34-20 game.
All right, so we both have Tampa Bay in this one. And that is it for the 12 o'clock games. Big bunch of games here to start out the day. But now we are moving on to the 3 o'clock slot, starting with the football team against the Cardinals. At Arizona, Fox Bet has it at a 7-point game for Arizona. Both teams 1-0 with both very impressive outings in their first week. Big takeaway was the Washington defensive line, 8 sacks in their first game. the big, addition they had was number 2 overall pick Chase Young, and him, Kerrigan, those 2 monster defensive tackles from Alabama, Jonathan Allen. They're able to just get after the quarterback, and they have elaborate rush schemes. Ron Rivera's been a great defensive coach for Carolina the past few years. So if they can scheme up a way to get to the quarterback, that's going to win you a lot of games, no matter how good your team is. We saw last year a team, the 49ers, 2-14 the previous season, but they added, defensive line depth onto defensive line depth, and they were able to win a lot of games that way. However, this is not Carson Wentz in this game. This is Kyler Murray. So the struggle is going to be, or the big battle in this game is going to be the Washington football team defensive front against Kyler Murray and that offense. Now, if Kyler Murray can do it did against the 49ers on Sunday, against this football team, they're going to be successful. Getting out of the pocket, extending the play, finding Hopkins on the second or third route, finding Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk, and that explosive Arizona offense that they have. As he led the team in rushing as well. He's able to get out of the pocket and get down the field for first downs. Expect a big game from Kenyon Drake because they're going to do a lot of option. And I think Kyler may have felt a little bit of those hits that he took last week. It might be giving the ball a little bit more on the option play. So expect more from him. But it's going to be a tough one in this game. I mean, you're going up against the Washington front that they're feeling good about themselves. Kyler Murray feeling good about himself and his offense. So I have Kyler in the matchup, but this is going to be a fun match. This is like my best matchup of the week to watch is the Washington defense against the Arizona offense. And if they can create turnovers, fumbles, anything they can, and get that good field position for Dwayne Haskins as they did last week, I'm expecting a good game. But I'll play it safe, and I'm going to take the Cardinals in a close one, 27-17.
Yeah, we both saw what the Washington football team did last week. A great comeback win from behind against the Eagles. But, Dwayne Haskins, he did not have that great of a game. He didn't put him in position to lose, but, they pulled it out somehow. So he 17 for 31, 178, and 1 touchdown. So, I don't really know how much I can trust this Washington football team. They're going up against, a solid Eagles team, and they're able to score a lot. But this Arizona offense, I think they're going to just put up too many points for this Washington football team to come back. DeAndre Hopkins went up against, Richard Sherman last week, 14 receptions for 151 receiving yards, a monster game for him in his first outing with the Arizona Cardinals. Like you're talking about Kyler Murray, he's going to get out of the pocket. He's going to extend the plays. He's not going to let, this Washington football team defensive line, bother him too much. He's going to, get some rushing yards, juke some people out. I expect him to have another sophomore season kind of like Lamar Jackson did last year where he's running the ball a lot and he's extending plays, hitting people down deep, especially like you're saying, this trio that they have with DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, a speedster on the outside, and Larry Fitzgerald, who's been a staple in this Arizona offense. Just a nice slot guy that you can hit for any sort of yard. So I'm expecting the Cardinals to win this game pretty easily. Defense does win games, and this Washington defense, they put on performance last week against the Eagles, but this Arizona Cardinals team, just overall team, is looking really good this year. I got the Cardinals 27-17.
Hey, there we go. So we have the same final score. I think this is the first game that we have the same final score.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just touching on what you said, in terms of Dwayne Haskins, aided by good field position. Do you trust this team offensively? Not really. But yeah, let's move on. So we both had the Cardinals in that one. Let's move on to our second 3:00 game of the afternoon. We have Chiefs at Chargers. I'll start with this one. Kansas City favored by 8. Key things to know in this game, Kansas City starts 1-0, and while the Chargers, or both teams, start 1-0 in the season, as this is a big AFC West matchup. pretty different games in which they both won. Kansas City came out in the first game of the season. It feels like it was 3 weeks ago. It's been so long. And they tore it up. They dominated the Texans from the start to the finish. Patrick Mahomes, not really. He didn't have a lot of explosive plays down the field, what you expect from a Patrick Mahomes-led team. Instead, it was a lot of ball control,
Milking
quick
the clock out.
passes, and running the ball with
Mm-hmm.
Clyde in that offense. Watkins had a good game. The embarrassment of riches on that Kansas City team allows them to like pick their matchup. If they see a defense that's going to take away the deep ball and make you go down the field, Patrick Mahomes as a passer is like, well, we have the run game and we have the short pass with, Kelsey, Watkins, Hill across the middle. We can reach the sidelines and we have the option. Patrick Mahomes can get out of the pocket a bit. So they're so versatile offensively. They don't make mistakes. And if they can get that running game going with that passing attack that they have, like a play action, they are so deadly. Now, the Chargers defense did look really good against the Bengals in the first game. How much do you credit that to the greatness of the Chargers defense versus the inexperience and lack of understanding of the Bengals offense? I don't know. I'm going to give the edge to the Chargers defense because I've seen them look good in other games as well. No Derwin James, obviously, still out with that injury, but they still have Bosa, they still have Ingram. Both look dynamic against the Bengals. So it's going to be about can Patrick Mahomes get the ball out to his receivers, and can that running game get going against this Chargers defense? So if those edges bear down on Mahomes, give him a rough time, it's going to be a long night for this Chiefs offense. But I believe the Chiefs will handle the Chargers front, and they're going to work that depleted secondary. They have good corners, Desmond King, Chris Harris, and I'm missing Casey Hayward.
Casey Hayward, yeah.
Those three cornerbacks, really talented, probably the best cornerback trio in the league. But if you can, work on that linebacking core and work on that inside of the defense, then I think the Chiefs are going to have a win in this one pretty handily. I'm picking the Chiefs to win in this game, 27-13.
Yeah, so we saw the Chargers last week struggle a lot against that Bengals defense, and we just saw Baker Mayfield look like his old self against that Bengals defense. So I do not trust in this Chargers offense at all. Tyrod Taylor went 16 for 3,200 passing yards, no touchdowns for him. I do not expect them to get off to a good start at all. Deshaun Watson, they put up 13 points on this Chiefs defense, so I don't expect this Chargers defense or offense to do any better than that. Maybe they only score a field goal in this game. I don't know. But Patrick Mahomes, I'm expecting him to light up this Chargers defense. Even if he gets off to a slow start, the amount of possessions that he's going to have in this game because of how bad the Chargers offense is, he's going to be lighting them up. I'm expecting him to go off again. Maybe 300 yards and maybe another 3 touchdowns for him. And they're going to be pounding the ball a lot this game because they're going to be up for most of it. So I'm expecting another big game from Clyde. Like you were saying, the matchup is probably going to be in this game. Those Chargers cornerbacks against Patrick Mahomes. He didn't have too much trouble against a beat-up Texans secondary, opening night. But this is going to be a little bit tougher matchup for him. But I think the Chiefs take this game easy. It's going to be 30-10 Chiefs.
All right, that's solid. Yeah, a lot of questions on that Chargers offense. Tyrod Taylor did not look great. You begin to wonder when or if they're going to bring Justin Herbert in for his first game pretty soon. Quick question, I want to just see what you think about this before we get into the 2 next games for Sunday. Is this Chiefs offense better than last year's team?
I would have to say so. Yeah, they got a lot more versatile with how they spread the ball out. Last year they were just going deep to Tyreek Hill and giving it to Travis Kelce. But I like what I saw on opening night. They hit DeMarcus Robinson on that deep touchdown, but it was called back. But they spread the ball out a lot. Sammy Watkins got involved. Tyreek Hill, he's Tyreek. He's going to do what he does. He got a late touchdown in that game. on a crossing route in the corner of the end zone. Travis Kelce also had a touchdown. So I really like how they spread out the ball a lot more. You really don't know who they're going to go to. I know they have Mecole Hardman. He had a solid last year, and he didn't get too involved in that last game, but, they could give him the ball anytime that they want. We know Damian Williams, he opted out, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he filled in that spot really well. He had a little bit of trouble, in the red zone trying to, hammer the ball in, the last couple of yards. But I don't think that's too big of a deal for them. Yeah, definitely looking a lot better than last year. Patrick Mahomes, he's healed up after that knee injury that he had. So I expect another great year out of this Chiefs offense.
It's just crazy to think about. This is Patrick Mahomes' third year in the NFL, third full year where he's the starting quarterback. And it's wild to see the improvement every single year. We're going to get to another quarterback in their next team, Lamar, who've made similar improvements. But it's just watching Patrick Mahomes' trajectory throughout the NFL and seeing where he started from where he is now. I mean, in that game, it reminded me of like a Drew Brees type game, just surgical, not a lot of things deep, but just hitting the passes that you need to convert those third downs in big situations. So I've seen the Brett Favre of Patrick Mahomes, and now I'm seeing the Drew Brees, Tom Brady of Patrick Mahomes. And if he can be that middle between the two, that's deadly. And that's going to be, he already is looking like one of the greatest quarterbacks I've ever seen. But moving on, we're going to look at Ravens-Texans. This is going to be the final game of the 3 o'clock slate on CBS. We have Baltimore favored by 7 in this one. Ravens 1-0, Texans 0-1, losing to the Chiefs, and Baltimore beating the Browns for the Browns' only loss in the season. So I'll let you start this one off. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with Lamar Jackson. We saw the MVP season that he had last year, but let's talk about the passing attack that he had against the Browns week 1. Marquise Brown goes for 5 receptions, 141 yards. Willie Snead, he had a pretty good game. He had a touchdown. Lamar Jackson, only 5 incomplete passes, 275 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So, last year we saw him with that running attack. You see him on the highlight reels, juking linebackers out, juking, corners out, slip and slide out there for anyone on the defense. But he really worked on his passing game this offseason. Last year we saw him against the Tennessee Titans in the playoffs. He maybe had 2 or 3 picks in that game, but, came out against the Browns defense that, maybe we don't know how good they're going to be so far during the season, but I like how Lamar Jackson played. And then if we switch over to the Texans, Deshaun Watson, he got paid during this offseason. He got his big contract to make him the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL. But I did not like what I saw out of that Texans offense. They lost DeAndre Hopkins, but they got Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb and, Will Fuller. He can go for a 60-yard touchdown anytime that he wants. I liked how David Johnson played. He went for 7 yards a carry and a touchdown, but they were down most of that game, so they were expecting Deshaun Watson to throw it. A lot of drop balls by Brandon Cooks and the other receivers. I wish they could have caught some more to convert on those third down plays. But this is going to be a tight game. The Baltimore Ravens and the Houston Texans played last year, and I think the Ravens came out on top on a close one. So I'm expecting –
It was not close. The Ravens blew them out.
My apologies. But I think this is going to be a close game. Deshaun Watson, he's going to bounce back against that Chiefs defense. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a big thing – look that up for me because you might be right. That 2019 matchup they had, because I'm pretty sure it was not that close. But I want to talk about the defenses in this one. It just seemed to me that the Houston defense is nowhere near as electric as it was in years past. More specifically, the defensive front for these teams as, J.J. Watt, Whitney Merciless, they just don't look like the same players. Injuries and the loss of Clowney on the other side, you're losing a lot there in the front. And it seems like J.J. Watt is slowly on his way out. He's not looking as explosive, nor near as fast off the line, getting beat by offensive linemen to the spot. It's tough to watch him now. He's still a great person, great human being, Hall of Famer. But I just think him and Merciless especially just seem like non-factors. And against this Baltimore rushing attack, you're going to need them to step up in a big way, along with the rest of that Texans front. They lose DJ Reader to the Bengals, and they lose other components of their defense. But and then we look at the other side of the ball. We look at the Baltimore defense, and you have just playmakers on all three levels. Of course, on the defensive line, Calais Campbell, not Zadarius Smith, Matt Judon, and those two inside guys for the Ravens looked electric, along with the rookie Patrick Queen in his debut had a forced fumble and a sack along with 8 tackles. He looked really good for them. Their secondary is almost probably one of the best in the league. Marcus Peters, Marlon Humphrey, and those two safeties back there. So, all three levels, they are stacked, and they proved it against the Browns, who scored 35 points on Thursday versus only 6 against the Ravens. But one thing I do want to say, if the Texans want any shot in this game, they have to establish the run, and that starts with David Johnson, their big offseason acquisition. So you need to get that set up because Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb in week 1, they were able to set the run, and they didn't score much, but they had the yardage, and they got down the field. It was just Baker Mayfield and the rest of the offense not really getting it. But if you're able to set the run on this Ravens team and then set up the play action pass out of it to your, quick strike targets and Brandon Cooks, Will Fuller down the field, you can have some success in offense. But the big thing in this game is, can the Texans defensive line get to Lamar, and can the Ravens defense stop the run? I think that they will not be able, or the Ravens defense will do a good job against the run, not a great job, but I do not believe in this Texans defense's ability to get to Lamar. I think it's too electric. He looks too good in the pocket and especially out of the pocket. So I'm going to give the Ravens their second win of the season. Texans just seem like they're kind of unraveling after that sus trade for, getting rid of DeAndre Hopkins. So I'm giving Baltimore the win in this one. I'm going 43-25.
Yeah, so the game that I was talking about from last season, it was a massacre by the Ravens, 41-7 against the Texans. I was thinking about the Chiefs-Texans game last year where the Texans won 31-24. So, yeah, I'm expecting a really good year out of David Johnson this year. I think if Bill O'Brien wants to keep his job, he needs David Johnson to have a big year after that trade for trading away DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson. Deshaun Watson, he's going to have a great game for them to win. But against, like you're saying, that Ravens defense stacked on every level, you have to go Baltimore in this game. They're looking for a comeback season and trying to go back to the Super Bowl after disappointing playoffs last year. So I'm going to have the Ravens in this one 30-17.
30-17. All right. So it seems like we're on the same page. So now we had the Ravens both in that last one. Now we get the Sunday night game. Seahawks taking on the Patriots in Seattle. Both teams start the season 1-0. Looked very impressive in both their games. I'm going to let you start with this one, having a little bit more expertise in one of the teams. Quick thing I want to point out, we both picked against the Seahawks in week 1, including our resident Seattle fan, Laraib here. So I just want to throw that out there for our viewers to take in mind whenever listening to him on this next take. But no, the floor is yours.
Hashtag let Russ cook. Okay, you know what? I was kind of hesitant to pick the Seahawks last week because I didn't know how much Brian Schottenheimer was going to let Russ cook. And you know what? He let it fly on Sunday. He had a lot of creative play calls, screens to the running back in deep, going for it on 4th and 3 in the Falcons territory. So, Russell Wilson had another great performance, had many touchdowns as he had incompletions, 31 for 35, 322 and 4 touchdowns. They didn't run the ball as much. Their leading rusher was Russell Wilson for 3 carries for 29 yards. But, I think that's a good thing. They're letting Russell Wilson do his thing. they kind of held him back for the last couple of years trying to run the ball up the gut with Chris Carson. I really like how they're spreading out the ball more. DK Metcalf, he had a solid game, except for that one drop when he was wide open. But I liked how aggressive the Seahawks offense was. They're on it's 4th and 3, and you know what? We're gonna take the shot to the end zone, and they got it. In years past, they're kicking that field goal, and most likely they're gonna end up missing it, and it's gonna come back to bite them later in the game. But I really liked how aggressive they were. And then on the other side, we saw Cam Newton in his first start for the Patriots against the Dolphins. He didn't, he had an all right game, 15 for 19, 155. He did most of his damage on the ground, 15 carries for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that put them over the Dolphins. Dolphins, we already talked about we don't really know what direction that they're going to go in. But I think the Seahawks it's going to be a tough matchup for Russell Wilson against, Stephon Gilmore in the back half of that Patriots defense. You got the McCourty twins back there. So we'll see what Brian Schottenheimer decides to do for this game. Maybe run the ball a little bit more. But I think the Seahawks can win this game pretty handily on Sunday night.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have the Seahawks in this one as well. I think it's predicated on Bill Belichick against this apparently newfound Seahawks offense. I mean, if they really let Russ cook and let him do what he does, which is escaping from the pocket, making a play out of nothing. If nothing's there, he was going to make something positive out of it. Bill Belichick, he's going to take away your first option. So it's up to your quarterback and your offense to find that second, maybe even third option to go to at times. So you're probably going to have Gilmore lined up on Lockett for the majority of the game, if not Lockett, Metcalf, whatever the matchup is favorable. So it's going to be on Wilson to find, those third receivers, find the Will Dissleys of the offense, the tight end. Greg Olsen is going to have a big game in this one. And setting up the run game, Chris Carson had a really good game against the Falcons. Granted, not a great defense, but if they're able to attack them on both levels through the air and on the ground, then making their offense very unpredictable for Bill Belichick to really take away – because he can't take away everything. A defense cannot take away everything. If you can set up the run, the pass, third, second, fourth option, then it's going to be a hard game for Bill Belichick to get his defense lined up on. And the keys for the Patriots, if they want to win this game, it's about ball control. It's about setting up the run on your end with Cam and Michelle and all those running backs in New England. They had a tough time moving the ball against the Dolphins. They relied on 3 interceptions from Ryan Fitzpatrick to get a good field position. And when they were called to go 80 yards down the field. Now, granted, it's a whole new offense with Cam at the helm versus what they've been doing the past 20 years. So I'm going to give them some slack in the sense that I think their offense is going to be better than it was against Miami. But I don't think it's going to be good enough to score with this high-powered Seahawks offense. So I think the Seahawks are going to get out to an early lead. New England's going to try to come back, but it's just going to be too little too late, which is not the case for a lot of Seahawks games, especially primetime. Mm-hmm. So I got Seattle in this game. I'm going to go 31-20. New England scores late. Actually, 24. 31-24.
Yeah, I got the Seahawks winning this game 28-10. We already know what Russell Wilson is capable of. Cam Newton, maybe he can go back to we know he has a little bit of accuracy issues, and that receiving core is kind of suspect. With Julian Edelman kind of back half his career. N'Keal Harry didn't have that good of a game, and he's questionable to play in this game, and so is Matthew Slater is questionable. So we really don't know who that number 2 option is going to be in that Patriots offense. So I think the Seahawks win this game pretty handedly.
All right, so that's Sunday's slate of games. One more game left on the schedule. It's Monday night, Saints-Raiders. First game for the Las Vegas Raiders in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. New Orleans is favored, though, by 6 points on the road. Both teams start their seasons 1-0. I will start with this one, being the resident Saints fan in the building. This game, it's about the running games for both teams, in my opinion. Both offenses rely heavily on their running game, especially from their running backs. Josh Jacobs had a very impressive debut against the Panthers. But in this game, he is not facing the Panthers. He is facing the Saints defensive line and defensive backfield. Demario Davis, Cam Jordan, Trey Hendrickson just manned that front, and they stopped the Buccaneers, held them to under 60 yards rushing on Sunday. So if you can hold Josh Jacobs in this offense to limited carries and limited yards and production on the ground, then you kind of halt their entire offense. And then the Saints secondary looked very good against the Buccaneers on Sunday. So if they can lock down the receivers and eliminate the big play to your Henry Ruggs of the world, Tyrell Williams from getting down the field, and limiting penalties especially, you're going to have success against this Raiders offense and John Gruden, who's historically never been that great against the Saints and Sean Payton. Now, for the other side of the ball, in terms of getting the running game going, Alvin Kamara needs to prove that he is a $15 million back in this league. He needs to prove why he's getting paid almost as much as McCaffrey. And so he needs to have a big game in this one. I understand he's splitting carries with Latavius Murray, but this Raiders defense is not that great in the middle. They have some good young pieces, but it's not really great enough to stop this Saints high-powered offense. And if they just control the ball, don't turn it over, and just push it, you should be able to get at least 6 yards per carry, I'm thinking, against this Raiders defense, just pushing the ball, being unpredictable, setting up the play action to guys like Jared Cook and Emmanuel Sanders down the field. Obviously, no Michael Thomas in this game. But expect for Drew Brees to have a bounce-back game. He didn't look too great on Sunday. Just that precision passing down the field, hitting Kamara and Murray on screens, hitting Cook down the middle. They expect Taysom Hill to get some more usage in this game as a third wide receiver. So, yeah, I like the Saints a lot in this game. First game in Las Vegas, it might give the Raiders a boost if they need any. But it's a really tough matchup, a promising young team against a solidified veteran team with more talent. It's a tough one. So I'm going to give – it's closer than you think. I'm going to give it Saints 27, Raiders 21. Raiders score late but fail an onside kick. Saints get this.
Yes, I think the matchup of this game is going to be that Raiders offensive line against that Saints, stacked front seven. As you're saying, Demario Davis, Cam Jordan, Roach, Hendrickson, a lot of people that showed out on Sunday against the Buccaneers, got to Tom Brady on the ground, disrupted him a little bit. 3 offensive line are questionable or doubtful for the Las Vegas Raiders. So I really expect this Saints front seven to eat up. Maybe get some blitz packages in there, zone blitzes and stuff like that to really disrupt Derek Carr and make him uncomfortable in the back of the pocket. Derek Carr, 22 for 30, 239, and 1 touchdown against the Carolina Panthers. But, most of that game was on Josh Jacobs' back. But they're going to really have to rely on Derek Carr because, as you're saying, that Saints front seven, they're going to shut down Josh Jacobs this game. He's not going to be able to run all over them. On the other side, like you said, Michael Thomas is out. But I expect Drew Brees to hit Jared Cook and Emmanuel Sanders on some pretty nice deep routes this game. We saw Robbie Anderson have that nice long touchdown against the Las Vegas Raiders. And also McCaffrey had almost 100 rushing yards. So I'm really hoping this is going to be a statement game for this Saints offense this year to get a little bit more, score a lot more points, get back to how they used to be. Drew Brees had 160 passing yards against, a suspect Buccaneers defense. Suspect Buccaneers secondary. But, they sent a lot of pressure with their front seven, which is really good. So, Drew Brees, he's going to have to – or he's not going to have to be, but he's going to be good this game for them. And they're going to win this game pretty easily. I'm going to go 28 to 17.
Good pick. Yeah, I think a lot of the keys you touched on. It's gonna fall on the shoulders of Derek Carr to get this offense going. It's just a question of whether or not this Raiders defense can generate turnovers and that give their offense good field position. And against the New Orleans offense, that limits turnovers, and they were the best in the league at limiting turnovers last year and winning the turnover differential. It's going to be tough to do that. So Derek Carr is going to find himself in a lot of starting on the New Orleans 10, Las Vegas 10, Las Vegas 5, having to go 80, 85 yards down the field to score. So that immense pressure we're putting on his shoulders. It's going to be a tough game for him. So we'll see what they can do. This is a sexy upset pick around the league, just because the Raiders, everyone wants them to succeed. Everyone wants the new Las Vegas team to be on the block. But this matchup, they're not going to do too well. We both have Saints. So that concludes the Week 2 coverage. Before we go, we're going to have our upsets and locks of this week. So we didn't talk about it because it's our first episode, but we're going to each give our lock, which is our team that we know for sure is going to win this week. And our upset, a team that is not favored by at least 3 points to come out on top in their matchup. So we'll start with myself, right, for the lock?
Yes, this week you are going to go first for the lock, and then I will have my next 2 picks for my lock and upset, and then you'll have your final upset.
All right, so our lock, we talked about it pretty shortly, but we didn't need to talk about it too much. I think this is a no-brainer. There's a lot of teams that seem like they're probably going to win handily this upcoming week. But I'm giving it to the 49ers over the Jets. It's a mismatch on paper. Jets are missing so many key pieces at so many different levels of their team. 49ers just look outstanding. So I'm giving it to the 49ers easily, lock, for this matchup.
All right, so for my lock of this week, I'm going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to beat the Carolina Panthers. Tom Brady, he's coming out. It's going to be a statement game for him. Finally get incorporated into that offense. Throw a lot of deep touchdowns. Go back to his Randy Moss days where he's throwing, 16 touchdowns to him. So it's going to be a great game for him. I got Tampa Bay as my lock, and for my upsets, I have the Vikings will upset the Colts. The Colts are projected, or they have a -3, so I have the Vikings coming back after a terrible loss against the Green Bay Packers, and they're gonna beat this Colts team pretty bad.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier. At least I teased it a bit. But my upset will be the Jaguars advancing to 2-0 in the AFC South over the Tennessee Titans quite handily. Titans coming off a big win on a short week in a Monday night game, having to go back home against the Jaguars team that got their first win. I like the matchups in this game. If the Jaguars can just hold Derrick Henry, they're going to be successful in this one. So I like the Jaguars as a 7-point underdog in this one. 7.5-point underdog.
Risky plays by my partner, Mr. Butler. All right. So I think that's going to wrap up the end of the first episode. I'll be sure to bring some water for the next one so I'm not voice cracking everywhere. You have anything to say, Louis?
I mean, it's going to be a fun week of football. Every week's going to be a great week of football. A lot of good matchups this week. A lot of tough ones that we had to split hairs on. But I like my picks. I know you like yours. So let's see what happens going into this week.
All right. So that's going to be the end of this episode. Thanks for everyone for listening or for watching. And
next episode will be filmed on Tuesday.
Okay. So expect the episode to be ready Wednesday morning. And we'll see y'all then.